Got a quorum? And still no James. Ryan, you want to do the opening? Is that right? Sure. Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'd like to welcome everybody. In the absence of James Call, we'll have Ryan lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the opening comments.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to be here today to represent the city and the interests of the city. We're so grateful for the moisture we've received and ask for more. We're grateful for this great place that we live in this great country, and ask to continue to bless us, that we'll do good things and we'll make great decisions. And please bless that all will be well with our meeting today. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Okay, first item on the agenda is general citizen communication, and you're not here for general, you're here for a specific line item, all right? Just clamoring to get to the mic. I know. All right. We'll skip down to number 4, working agenda. First on that agenda is a public hearing. You want to introduce this subject, Corey?
Yes. Public hearing on proposed revision to Santa Clara's city zoning ordinance, section 17.28032, retaining walls. We have an attached amendment. The report, the present code 172832 states that rock retaining walls whose height is 4 foot or less is not considered a retaining wall. And if less than 4 feet, does not require engineer design. City staff believes that many current problems would be solved by having the developers install the retaining walls or earth stabilization walls as part of the subdivision improvements when there is a difference in grade of 2 foot or more between 2 adjoining lots. Part of the proposed amendment, items F, G, and H require that retaining walls or earth stabilization walls shall be designed and inspected by a licensed engineer, and the compliance letter submitted by the engineer to the city upon completion of the wall. Further explanation of the proposed amendment can be provided by staff at the PC meeting. So if you want to pull up this ordinance. So the retaining wall ordinance that you see here has been modified. The things that are in red are the current ordinance. Everything in yellow is proposed. So when a difference in grade between adjoining properties, a permit with engineered design for retaining wall, it used to say may, we would like to change that to a shall be submitted to the city. Subject to the requirements set forth in this section, rock walls whose height does not exceed 4 feet is the old. We would like to change that to 2 or greater vertical feet, and those angle of repose does not exceed a ratio of 1:1 is an earth stabilization wall for the purpose of this section and requires compliance with item F. Why don't we jump down to item F? Item F states stacked rock earth stabilization walls shall be designed and installed by licensed engineers and a compliance report submitted by engineer to the city upon completion of the construction prior to the final acceptance by the city. We can go on to G and H while we're here. Retaining walls and rock walls installed in new subdivisions shall be designed and inspected by licensed engineers. And the compliance report submitted to the city upon completion of construction prior to final acceptance by the city. That would be the subdivision. Prior to the subdivision being approved by the city, then those documents would have to be submitted. All other required retaining walls shall be inspected by city building department or licensed engineer, and a compliance report submitted by the engineer to the city upon completion of construction prior to the final acceptance by the city. Not only this retaining wall ordinance covers all the city, not just subdivisions. So if you have a single lot and want to put in a rock stabilization wall, you'd need a fence permit to make sure it's on the property line. And then you would go ahead and get your third-party engineering, and they would proceed with building the wall and do the inspections, and then provide us a letter at the completion of the wall. If you want to jump back up to A, Christelle. The height of the retaining wall shall not exceed 6 feet. If the retaining wall exceeds 4 feet, that was the old, we're changing it to 2, in height or greater, the wall shall be engineered and approved pursuant to the International Code, Building Code. And that's the standards. The current version says standards, but we don't need standards in there. We can just cut it off as International Building Code. You drop down to D. Retaining walls over 6 feet in height shall be stepped to form benches, which can be landscape. Bench walls shall be offset at a 1-to-1 ratio and comply with 17.80040. When installed on hillside, 17.80040 is our hillside ordinance. And it spells out when you're on the hillside, you have to comply with the different steps if you're on a hillside. So with that, staff recommends approval.
Okay. I've got some questions on that, but we might as well. I think that this next step will be really, really quick. Unless Mr. Fry has a lot of comments on this item. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing on the proposed revision of the Santa Clara City zoning ordinance, section 17.28.032, retaining walls, difference in grade. So it's open. Going once. Do you have anybody online? Do you want to say something?
Has there been a problem with the 4-foot retaining walls someplace?
I know everybody knows you, but for the record, will you state your name and address?
I'm Kent Fry, 385 Michael Circle.
Yes, there has been quite a few problems with retaining walls. The hills at Santa Clara being one. When they did the second phase, when they built those lots, in my opinion, they didn't build a buildable lot to sell. And so when the people came in to put their house on there, a lot of times they had a slope that came into their yard that they had to put the retaining wall in. When in reality, that really should have been a buildable lot that they could come and put a house on. They shouldn't have to put retaining walls on both sides. A lot of the times that wasn't ever disclosed to them. So the building department and the public works department become the bad guys when we tell them, okay, you got to put a retaining wall here that's going to be required because it's too close to your home.
No, I understand that, but Corey, what I'm asking, and there might be a real need, have we had some rock walls that are 4 feet high cave in or fail? I'm not against retaining walls. What I really question is limit going from 4 feet to 2 feet for engineered walls if we haven't had a problem with failure? That's my biggest concern.
The 2 feet isn't structural engineered, it's engineered so it gets built in the proper location. 4 feet and above is structurally engineered. 4 feet and less does not have to be structurally engineered.
So I'm misunderstanding it.
Yep.
So
I misunderstood it too then, because I was wondering the same thing Kent was.
I missed a little bit of it. So,
It doesn't say structural or,
Doesn't,
and
geo.
so it needs to say that.
it probably should say structural or in reference geo engineering on the other.
Rick was referencing.
Because that was my question is,
That these walls are getting built across property lines. So when he's specifying engineering, he's talking, make sure it's on the line. But anything less than 4 feet, he says structurally doesn't have to be designed.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
makes, just designed so it was on
it's
the.
the geo engineering portion.
That's what caught my attention because as a landowner, if I was going to put up a 4-foot wall, I would hate to have to pay an engineer to do that. And I understand the stability after 4 feet, there's a reason for it. And so anyway, I'm on board with what was just said.
Took my question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
so-
took mine too.
Nobody's
mine
making
too.
anybody put in a 4-foot, retaining
Right.
wall. If they want to do a 2-to-1 slope, they can do that.
Yeah,
They choose to put in a retaining wall to get that portion of their usable lot.
exactly. And I get that. I just was like, my first thought was, is this geo or is this structural? And it just not defined. And so that would be my question.
So yes, it's geotechnical for
Okay.
a portion. Now, the building code says you have to have a retaining wall, anything from 3 foot from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall.
Right.
So if you're building something and meets that parameters, putting a wall on top of it, then you would need a engineered structural retaining wall.
Any other public comment? Anything online? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and continue with the discussion. Yeah, so I was thinking the same thing. I am an engineer, and I'm proud to admit it as I dodge rocks thrown from the one engineer down there. But this just seemed to me, it like it was a little. Maybe we could reword that a little bit to make that more clear, because in my mind, I've always thought of the engineered requirements for retaining walls would be a structural engineer. And I'm going, going from a 4 to 2 foot structural is a little overkill. But I can see the need to make sure that the geotech is done and that if it's close to a property line, that it's done, surveyed and in the right spot. So, but I don't see that clear in this text.
So how would you like to approve it? The International Building Code sort of states, do you want me to
What is it?
section out there?
I don't have that memorized. What is that state that clears it up for us?
Well, anything, anything that is more than 3 feet from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall and has a surcharge of any type would need to be a engineered retaining wall. So you're going to put a block wall, a 6-foot block wall on it. You've got wind loads, you have different kind of loads that you would need to get a retaining wall.
That's still in my mind when you quote that still to me sounds like a structural design.
Right.
Where they're looking at the rebar and the beams
Mhm.
Instead of the foundation and the location.
True, it is. So instead of just saying, shall be engineered and improved pursuant to the International Building Code, do you want me to put in the requirements of the building code so it spells it out?
I'm reading. Give me just a second.
You texting somebody for help?
Yeah, texting somebody for help. So
Phone a friend?
phone a friend. The 2012 International Building Code requires a permit for retaining walls over 4 feet in height, measured from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall, not measured by exposed wall. Walls that support a surcharge are less than 4 feet in height may also require a permit. So it doesn't really state geo or structural in that code. So even that leaves it to be confusing, right? So I think I just think the wall shall be engineered leads people to believe they've got to have. So I think you're probably going to have people ask that question. How do we not have them ask that question? So the verbiage there, just make the verbiage there shall be engineered by a geo. I mean, what term would you think? I mean, what term would you think? You guys are the professionals.
Maybe less than 4 feet needs to be surveyed as opposed to engineered.
Yeah, well, I don't think that, if it's not near a property wall, I don't think it necessarily needs to be surveyed either.
No, I agree, but if it's on a property line, it really should be surveyed.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, we require a fence permit. These would require.
Right.
a
These would
fence
be part of the
permit,
fence permit if you go to
And-
that point.
And that's only $5 with the city.
Right.
And that's for us to go out and make sure it's on the property line.
okay.
So we require that when we go out for a fence, that we have stakes. So we know that it's on the property.
They've had to have it surveyed anyway.
So if they were going to build a 2-foot rock retaining wall, earth, I don't know, 1 by 1,
Well,
1 foot by 1 foot, usually they put those in the ground. Foot and a half.
Then maybe my recommendation to you is let's do it the way you've got it. Let's keep an open mind to it. If you see that it's a challenge, we need to readdress it and change the verbiage.
Okay.
Because when I read this was my first question. I don't know what else. I don't know how to word. I don't know how to word it. I'm not
I
an
think you
expert.
just leave it like it is. Leave it 4 feet in height or greater.
So I had another, that's sort of what I don't see
Well, I
the
mean,
need to change it.
The codes or the International Building Code states over 4 feet in height and it's bolded.
It's not real clear on this, on the vertical, I mean, 4 foot high from footing to top,
Bottom of the footing. to
bottom of
top,
footing to top,
Which is 3 feet.
which is,
Usually have a 1 foot footing. 10 inches,
Right.
yeah.
I think making that change in the ordinance is okay. But 2 feet is, I don't know, it seems excessive to me.
So do you think 3 foot would be more? It
Either,
would be in line with the building code as
yes,
the way
well,
it's stated.
3 foot is, the building code says 4 foot from the bottom of the footing to the top. And I
Yep.
think that's, which is,
That's sufficient.
that's good. If they want to bury it.
Well,
and it-
most,
And
well,
it's only 2
our-
foot exposed, they still have to,
so no footings can be exposed. They have to be 6 inches
Right.
below.
Right.
In here, in this area, 6 inches below frost level. So
yeah, but if you have your footing, then you come up with your wall and you can actually bury that, and actually in retaining walls, you do that, you put earth on both sides. And so the exposed could only be 2 feet, which may not need to, I mean, based on this description, you would have to do it, but let's not make that measurement the determining factor. Make the measurement from the bottom of the footing to the top of the wall the determining factor.
correct.
As 4 feet, it basically reduces the amount from 4 to 3, and it doesn't go 2, which this says. So
So can we make that clear that it meets the building code and 3 foot in height? Was it be,
I don't think you say at 3 foot high. I think you say from 4 foot from bottom of footing to top of wall.
okay,
Including footing.
Yeah.
we can spell out what the building code says, that definition.
And I'm not so sure if that, I mean, I'm not a structural engineer either, so I can't really opine to the necessity of that, but I'm teetering on whether that's even just overkill, because there's a lot of just rules of thumbs in building a wall that if it's got a 4 foot from bottom of footing to top of wall is pretty easy to just do your rule of thumb and you're going to be good.
Well, we're getting a lot, there's a variety, like you said, there's concrete walls, there's earth stabilization walls, a variety of them. There's railroad track, retaining walls, tie, et cetera, just goes on and on. So,
Yeah, I looked at a couple more different things from like other cities that had taken the definition and they're just as vague.
Yeah.
City, I mean, the one that I just read was.
Which makes it hard for the city
Yeah,
engineer. I have another question on this. It says that anything that does not exceed whatever we say requires compliance with item F. And item F still has a requirement of being designed and inspected by an engineer and a compliance report submitted by the engineer, submitted to the city. Was that
Did
So
I
you-
miss them? Where was IMF?
It just says item F, stacked rock earth stabilization wall shall be designed and inspected by license. So you're calling out stacked rock earth.
you state up above is an earth stabilization wall for the purpose of this section and requires compliance with item F. And then item F doesn't really seem to exactly fit that to me. Does it?
Well, if you're utilizing the stacked rock for earth stabilization, then it does.
Then maybe you ought to say, and requires compliance with item F if appropriate, or if
applicable.
applicable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, where are you getting IMF?
Item F.
Item F.
Yeah.
Item F.
I'm
Item.
looking for an acronym.
Sorry.
Item F. Okay.
Will you scroll down to where it's referring to that item F?
So stack.
So up at the top, it says right there at the bottom, it says,
Okay.
and requires compliance with item F.
Okay.
And so it's saying anything under 2 feet, and if we go with this potential adjustment, it'd be anything under 3 feet or 4 foot from just defined from top of the wall to bottom of the footing, which I think is more appropriate. Anything under that needs to comply with, according to this, needs to comply with item F. And item F doesn't necessarily apply to everything. It's just stacked rock. So I think it ought to say, and requires compliance with item F if applicable. Yeah.
I just also wonder why they need to change it to 2 feet when the International Building Code straight out calls out 4 feet. And that's why my question was going to be if we had issues that the 2 foot's kind of the golden go-to, or,
Well, we're just trying to, in the future, have subdivisions that are, the pads are built and ready to be built on.
right.
We don't want, them just leaving the slope, sloughing off on the neighbors where they have to figure out how to.
So I understand the issue.
Yeah.
I don't understand how this fixes that
I
issue.
I don't either.
Connect those dots for me.
So this is also being rewritten in the construction standards. And it says, refer to this ordinance. But in construction standards, the reason we want to do that is you'll get these developers come in and they'll leave a 2-foot slope. The builder will come in and build the home. And the homeowner hates that slope. So they hire a contractor. He comes in, he dumps his rock in the street. He uses a loader, a skid steer, breaks the curb, breaks the sidewalk, building this wall. Sometimes it becomes an argument between property owners because they don't get it surveyed. Then the city has to get involved. From our standpoint, it would just be so much nicer to have this done at the time of the development. Alleviates all the arguments between the homeowners, the city, us having to go out there and we don't catch them when they break the sidewalk.
So do we need something in this that defines when a retaining wall? I mean, right, I understand it's the same issue that I was understanding from Corey. I'm still having a hard time seeing how this ordinance fixes that unless you state in this ordinance that if there's a difference on the lot by a certain amount, then you shall do X
The developer.
The
to
developer.
the developer, yeah.
Now in construction standards also, we're changing it to only 11,000 feet and smaller. If it's larger lot than 11,000 square feet, they can do graded slope.
So in the construction standards, it's going to define, it's going to give you that language that you need to hang your hat on.
To
Okay.
enforce it.
All right, so that's the connecting,
And
Missing link.
we weren't
missing link.
in construction standards, we weren't engineering until 4 feet, but we did want them to do it at a 2-foot minimum.
Yeah,
From then on, take it up.
So ties
I think in the construction standards, we need to consider, tie it into this, like we're saying, a 4 foot from top of wall to bottom of footing, and that's basically can be pretty close to this 2 foot anyway because of the fill that they put on the down side and whatever the footing is. But I think that maybe we need to look at defining that engineering. I mean, when it comes right down to it, and you say, hey, a structural engineer's got to review this, and you put a 4-foot wall in front of the structural engineer, and he's gonna just say, hey, fill the bond beam and put two number 5s or something, and you're good to go, and he'll sign off on it. I mean, it'll take him all of 5 minutes. But
And we have those that
Mhm.
different engineers have a chart
yep,
that shows anywhere from 2 foot to 4 foot or 6 foot.
they know that they can sign off on that because it'll meet any kind of pressure loads that they're gonna see.
Well, I think we could go round and round all night.
Yep.
Trying to define the definition of this and do the different things. Maybe we ask for you guys to look at it again, give a little more definition to it.
Okay.
And then maybe educate us a little more on it before we meet on it again, something like that. Because now that I understand that it's building standards is gonna
Connect.
bring the enforcement in it and then connect it, that makes a little more sense to me. I just feel like 2 feet's overkill, but I think 4 feet where the IBC calls out the 4 feet. Maybe I'm wrong. I have never developed residential stuff. I've always done commercial stuff. So the world I've lived in is different.
Okay, we'll take this back and bring it back to you next month.
Kent would like it to be 6 inches.
What's that?
I said Kent would like it to be 6 inches. So, is that the commission's
That's
feeling?
that's my preference.
Is that in the form of a motion?
Well, I make a motion that we ask the staff to review and address it and give us better definition.
What do you think, Ryan?
I agree.
On what they need to address.
Well, that they need to spell out if we want to get that, yeah, is it structural? Is it geotech? Is it, and when applicable?
Yeah.
And then if you could also share with us in your research, maybe give us some to look at. Maybe, like I was just telling you, I just found that one, just Googling the IBC retaining wall code and can't remember the name of the city.
I think,
Covington, Washington comes up for some reason.
I think that, well, the other problem with this is there are as many retaining wall possibilities as there are ways to skin a cat. So, which that term would really tick my daughter off. So I should stop
Yeah,
saying
don't
it.
say that.
But,
So then my motion is this then. Let me restate it. My motion is that the staff take this, review it, give it better definition as to what type of an engineer, and this is only when applicable in in compliance with item F when applicable, and give us some other some references to review and in similarity to it. Is that fair?
And did I understand that the building code will address that this is a build-ready pad, not, this just sounds like it's a retaining wall
Yeah, wherever.
Well,
for
the
me?
construction
the
standard,
construction
Construction
standards, not the building code.
They'll define that.
Yeah.
but the ordinance comes before this body goes to city council. These construction standards are in body approved
Yeah.
by the city council.
Okay.
Construction standards is
Good.
where you guys get the enforcement.
Okay. I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that one gets delayed a little bit. I think it's a good idea. It's a good effort, and it shouldn't be too much after when it comes back to take that through. That's my opinion anyway. I'm just one guy. Number B2, request approval for Mobetta's and Swig wall sign. You got this too, Corey? It's by default.
Bob somewhere in Idaho, probably fishing.
I thought
Not
you were going
now.
to say Hawaii.
I'd like
At
to
this
get
juncture,
a
Idaho's
definition
just as
of
good almost.
So this is a request for Swig and Mobetta restaurants, their signs, when they came through with their site plan, those signs weren't on there, and the ordinance requires that this body to look at the signs. The zoning's PD commercial, the applicant requests approval of signs for Swig Drive-In Restaurant and Mobetta's Restaurant on Pad C in front of Harmon's on Pioneer Parkway. The sign ordinance 1744090B states that wall signs are allowed in a PD commercial zone subject to planning commission approval. There are 3 wall signs proposed for each building. 1 sign on each of the 3 sides. The proposed signs meet the sign ordinance for the wall signs. They must be 10% of the wall area on which the sign is placed. Mobetta's signs are approximately 55 square feet in size, which is considerably less than the 10% of the wall area. The signs are located below the parapet wall in the compliance with the city standards. In addition, the wall signs, there's a menu board approximately 20 foot 5x4 at the drive-through lane. Similar Swig wall signs are proposed on all 3 sides. And they're also considerably less than the 10%. They didn't give us the exact square footage of the sign, but they are considerably less than the 10% of the wall. The signs are red and yellow below the parapet wall, and we can look at the drawings. They also have a menu board, menu board that's associated with the drive-through. So you want to hold those colored renditions up? So here's Mobetta's, giving you a site plan along Pioneer. That's a double drive-through. Mobetta's being on the west, on the east side. Swig being on the west side. You can see the placement of the menu board on this first island right here. We can probably move to Swig. You can see that they're in the center of the building, above the doors, below the parapet. They're red, blue, Hawaiian style food. Here's their menu board. Here's the swig signs, similar to Mobetta's on 3 sides.
So can I ask a question right here?
Yeah, sure.
If you look at the signs placement, they've got their order boards in the same spot on both drawings. Does one not go out on that other island?
Yeah, one should be right here on this island, I would
Oh,
imagine.
okay, just clarification for me. Thanks.
That could be sort of confusing if you're in the drive-up.
Yeah, it could be.
I think that's just a
I'm
typo.
pretty sure my daughters have the menu memorized. It won't be a problem.
I'm pretty sure that, well, you can see right here that that's the menu board.
Yeah.
Right, that little dash line.
Yeah, but it's the same on both drawings, so
Yeah.
you can see it.
Well-
It's just not pointing towards, it's just pointing to.
We'll
the
have to
same
talk
spot
to
on
the
both.
general contractor and tell him he has to flip a coin. You can't have it
Yeah,
in the
can't
same
have
place.
both. Yeah, okay.
Good catch.
Not a big deal, but. After our last sign conversation, I went up and walked this site today. Just so that I'd have a better definition of feel for the size and the different things. And quite frankly, I thought they were kind of small for the building.
The swig signs,
Yeah.
yeah, the building is quite large.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they've done their
Oh,
studies
Won't
and
take long and it'll be
Yeah.
wrapped around. the
Okay,
so with that, the proposed signs meet the city sign ordinance, 17.44090. They look attractive, they're in scale with the building, and staff recommends approval.
all right, this is not a recommendation to council. This is approval by the planning commission.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct?
Yes.
All right. Do we have any questions or any discussion, or if not, I'm ready for a motion?
I don't want to do both motions tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve the Mobetta's and Swig wall signs as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Did you get those? Mark? Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Next is recommendation to the city council of preliminary plat for Vineyards Phase 11. Phase 11.
So the current zoning is residential agriculture, half acre minimum lot size. There's approximately 15.3 acres. Kent Fry is the applicant. Rosenberg and Associates, Allen Hall, the engineer, company and engineer. 20 lots. The proposed 20 single-family lots range in size from half acre to approximately 3/4 of an acre. Lots will be located along a new public street, the extension of Claude Drive and new cul-de-sac streets. All the proposed lots are outside the 100-year floodway. A 6-foot tall privacy wall is proposed along Vineyard frontage with a 10-foot wide planter strip on the street side of the wall. lots will have access off of Vineyard, but lots will not have access off of Vineyard, but will back against Vineyard Drive. So lot 5 is proposed as a flag lot with a 25 width stem per the code. And if it's a flag lot, the planning commission has to, in their motion, approve a flag lot. The project density is total of 15 acres is 1.3 lots an acre, 20 lots divided by 15 acres. The proposed subdivision meets the standards of the RA zone. The main issues dealt with access to the Santa Clara River for emergency purposes, the extension of the utility lines, trail easements, and storm drain plans. Regarding these issues, the applicant has agreed to the following: dedicated an access easement to the river, to the city, provide riprap and other erosion hazard mitigation as required by the city, provide storm drain as per city engineer requirements, meet all other utility and street installation standards as required by the city. We want to pull up that plat and we can sort of sorry, my pointer doesn't work on here, so it'll be behind you. So here's Vineyard Drive coming down. This is where the no access to these lots off of Vineyard that was stated. This will be where the curb gutter side privacy wall and a 10-foot planter strip will be. It'll greatly improve Vineyard Drive. Look. Claude Drive, which is the existing phase 10, will continue on up here to Vineyard. Here's the cul-de-sac that they're proposing, and the flag lot is right here. There's the access to that flag lot.
That little notch out right above lot 5, is that your old house, Kent, or is that?
The hillside, isn't it?
Yeah, this, you can see the topography. This is a lava bluff right here. So this is a lava bluff. There's also an irrigation easement, as you can see. There's a little dotted line right here. And that'll be like a no-build zone because it's a irrigation easement that goes on down to Southgate, I believe. The other easement that we're talking about is a storm drain sewer easement that comes along this southeast side. And at the bottom, you're seeing the riprap continuation. Phase 10 had a little curl right here. And then the dotted line is the erosion hazard line. So the riprap will have to be continued on, as stated in the staff report.
So the erosion hazard is actually right through the middle of it.
So you can see this riprap.
The floodplain.
Riprap that they're going to have to install to mitigate the where the erosion hazard comes into these lots. This easement comes on down and around to here and it goes on, right? Is it sewer? Sewer easement. So you got a sewer easement from Vineyard Drive coming down along here and tying in. The preliminary plat is ready for planning commission's consideration and approval based on the above comments in the preliminary plat layout. You have any questions on layout, lot size,
Did staff have any concerns?
other than those ones stated for public infrastructure? There was a discussion of whether Claude Drive will be Claude Drive all the way up to Santa Clara Drive. I would think that maybe for now, until that other portion is extended, that we leave it at Vineyard and just to make that a three-way a three-way stop. Is that what staff proposed? So it's just what's that? Eventually or now?
So Vineyard will turn into Claude at that point, all the way down past the city office? Or just that straight section? So it'll go Vineyard, Claude, Vineyard?
Yeah. We haven't
Okay.
seen the final plat yet, and I would think that the citizens would want some input on changing their street name.
They probably would. I think you might get a little pushback.
Yeah.
What's the name of the cul-de-sac gonna be, Kent?
That's neat.
This is your last phase? And you don't. Oh, was there a Kent Drive or a Kent Circle anywhere here? And your mother's name is Jewel. That's very appropriate. I like
That's
that.
why, that's just cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I like it. Okay.
So who's losing the barn and stuff down on the backside? Is that yours? Is he?
Yeah, will those stay farmland between the back of those lots and the river? Are you guys retaining some property between that and the river, or will those lots go all the way? Who will own that land? The Fries? Kyle. Okay, so there will be a little farm still between.
I figured there had to be, because it included the creek.
Well, I like it. Any other questions for?
Is there going to be any issues with backyard access off Vineyard Drive? Will the city allow that? I know they don't like double-ended lots, but there'll just be a wall. I know there's an elevation change there.
There's a big
There's a
elevation.
big privacy wall.
Come on up.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
don't you come address?
please.
Subdivision backing up to streets.
Well, they've never allowed me to do it before. I've tried.
City code that backs up to a dedicated street that maintains traffic requires the privacy wall and a 10-foot landscaped area. And Corey actually mentioned that. I don't, that
He did.
as he mentioned a bunch of stuff. So a lot of this up on Vineyard will be subject to going in probably a little after the subdivision, correlating with the SID.
Mhm.
And our thinking right now is doggone the city over 15, 20 years. For some reason, they don't want to maintain that kind of stuff anymore. I think it's called salaries and expenses
Yeah.
would be my guess. And so the subdivision has to do an association to maintain that. And the thought process now is because we're going to do that, we're 90 to 95% confident we'll probably carry that on down through Claude and Jewel Court and into a landscaped streetscape, just like Cottonwood. If you want to reflect on something with that, there will be an association that will maintain that.
And Corey, by us approving this tonight, we actually don't lock that in. We're going to revisit this as it comes. I mean, he doesn't have to lock in whether he's gonna have a landscape strip all the way down Claude Drive now.
Well, I'm just fairly confident that's where we're headed. Just with the type of lots we have.
Are you saying tree line streets, like setback sidewalks?
Yes.
That's what you'll do from the new subdivision on?
Is that what that profile shows up here?
Is that what?
I think it does on the,
That's what that shows.
on the right.
Can you zoom that in? Just that portion.
10-foot easement on both sides.
5-foot planter.
There's a sidewalk, a landscape strip.
There you go. You can see the landscape strip right there, landscape strip.
Mm.
6 foot.
Okay,
We just felt the theme and the vineyards and being the farm, we want the trees and as much grass and trees to just be as appeasing as we can. As long as there's not a retaining wall over 3 feet.
Let's call it 4.
as much grass and plants as possible. Don't tell Las Vegas that.
Well, the good thing about our Santa Clara irrigation system, as long as toilets are flushing, it might be reuse water, but we have a lot of irrigation water.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Corey answered them for me.
Thank you. That was very, very well done.
Yeah, just remember in your motion that planning commission has the
Flag lot.
authority to approve flag lots and they're asking for that.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion.
So they've used the word approve, but it says recommendation. Are we recommending? Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Recommendation to city council.
I gotta think this was a little more in depth. So just making sure that you include the flagged lot approval.
Yeah.
Or- okay.
And I don't know how we can. I mean, we've approved so many of those. I don't know if we can.
Well, it's actually a really neat lot.
Yeah.
Given a different time in my life, I'd kind of think forward on that one, but I'm staying where I'm at.
We love
All right.
ours.
You can sell it. You can talk to him about selling him that lot.
Laws of by choice. I'm not high on flag lots. But if you go down that corner, and Ryan's very well aware of it, I think he's about backed his trailer in there before. But the bank falls off. You can see the elevation line. The bank falls off. And we originally thought a walkout basement that fronted vineyard.
Yeah.
We've got a power line that we'll have to move.
Mhm.
And you're not talking an 8 or 10 foot drop in that corner. My guess is what, 14 feet? Maybe 20 feet. So it comes back to, there's a really good chance there'll be some kind of a retaining wall back in there. And it just, the
I think it's a
practical
neat
part of it, of a walkout basement confronting vineyard, it's just not practical. But it is actually a pretty neat lot
Yeah,
as is, because the stem is not that long.
No.
So anyway, I just taking you through the reasoning.
I went down and walked the property yesterday. So holy cow, the elevation.
Anyway, if you got any other questions.
No, that clears it up for me.
Okay.
So
Still open for a motion.
I make a motion that we make a recommendation of approval of the preliminary plat for the Vineyard Phase 11, including Flag Lot 5, to be approved to the city council. They cover it?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mark and second by Ryan. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thanks, Kent. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks.
Shh. You drug it out another 15 minutes.
Yeah, you added.
It wasn't for
we get out of
you.
here.
Thanks.
Thanks. Kent. Thanks, Al.
All right, discussion items. Do we have a
Okay,
discussion on monument signs?
Yeah, the last sign that came before the planning commission was the Ace Hardware sign. We had some comments that it seemed a little large. And so we thought we would bring this discussion back to Planning Commission. The Santa Clara Sign Ordinance, Chapter 1744, 110 provides standards for monument signs in commercial and planned development commercial zones and also in other areas for such things as subdivision, entrance signs, parks, schools, churches, and elsewhere where approved by the Planning Commission. In most cities, signs are generally allowed to be larger along major arterial streets, 4 lanes plus, and smaller on 2-lane collector streets, more typical of serving neighborhood commercial areas, such as the commercial area around the Pioneer Park and Rachel Drive intersections. Standards in commercial and PD commercial zone section 1744, 110. The maximum sign height is 10 feet, including the base. The maximum width is 12 feet. The maximum sign area for actual advertising area is 100 square feet, unless otherwise approved by the staff or planning commission. The minimum setback from property line is 2 feet. Lighting shall be indirect or single face sign, or may be internally illuminated or double face signs. The standard for monument signs in the mixed use zone or historical district is a maximum height of 6 feet above grade. The maximum area for signs plus structure is 48 square feet. Maximum for signs only is 40 square feet. If a sign is 6 feet tall, then the maximum width is 8 feet, 48 total square feet for signs plus structure. Signs in other areas, parks, schools, churches, subdivision, entrances, etc. The maximum height is 6 feet. The maximum width is 8 feet. The maximum advertising space is 48 square feet. Our sister city, St. George City, standards for monument signs. St. George City requires low-profile monument signs along smaller commercial streets. Pole signs allowed along arterial. The maximum height is 10 feet for a single level building and up to 15 foot tall for 2-story buildings. The maximum size for a monument sign varies depending on the amount of street frontage and that the property has. The maximum size range from 75 square feet for properties up to 100 feet of street frontage to a maximum of 120 square feet for large properties with more than 100 feet of frontage. 1 square foot of additional sign area for each 2 foot of additional frontage over 100. Sign examples: a new monument sign for Arby's on Dixie Drive south of Sunset is 8 foot wide, 8 foot tall, and 8 foot wide, with a 3 foot base. It has a sloping grade. The size of the sign is 64 square feet. Seems very adequate for the monument sign along an arterial street such as Dixie Drive. This size could be a good standard for Santa Clara City. Signs examples continue. Home Depot monument sign on 400 West Street, just north of Sunset. The sign is also 8 by 8 with a 3.5 base. The sign is very noticeable and 64 square feet of sign area seems ample. Other examples will be shown at the PC meeting. And we have some pictures of what we have up there. Of course, this is the 8 by 8 RV sign, monument sign. And here is Home Depot. And this is Mountain America. And they have a smaller base, but that appears to be about 10 foot long And I would say about 5 foot tall. I believe these are 10 by 8 with a 2-foot base. These are the Harmon signs. This is of course, the gas pump sign, but the other two signs that are at their entryways are similar in size. They're identical in size. So that sort of just gives you an idea of signs in the area. I think there was a little bit of discussion when ACE came through and how large that sign was.
But it was well below the code.
It met the current code. That's true.
Yeah. So I think that's what spawned the whole question was,
Yeah.
at least for me, I was thinking the one on Rachel just felt a little big, but the size was, in my view, was okay out on Pioneer. As I look at what our sister city's doing, it doesn't look like they go. I'm just wondering if we wanted to consider some change, it would probably be for those on I'm just looking for the verbiage in here. Well, you've got it right here, and it's in. So we don't have the verbiage that says on a 4-lane highway or
Correct. We don't.
to a 2-lane. And that's sort of what we were talking about in the meeting the other month, was that Rachel just seemed like that was a big sign.
Because it was a regular community streets.
Yeah.
I know that it's much easier to be more uniform with our other cities. That way the sign people sort of know what they're dealing with when they come to a city, and they don't have to change as much. So
Well, thank you. We only have
So
4.
with that, you're saying stay the way we are because we're like St. George?
We're not
well,
like St. George.
we're quite a bit larger. We're 100 square feet of advertising area, and St. George is well, those two examples are 60, 67. Is that it?
75.
60,
But they're
75 square feet.
Up to 100 square feet of frontage, and then they get 2 feet more as soon as they, up to a maximum of 120. So in all honesty, if you wanted to get technical on the one that came into question, St. George is bigger.
Mhm.
Because of the way the rules read.
Yeah, because that's a big, huge
Right.
frontage.
Okay, so I think that's a problem. I think where we're getting into the conversation based on what Mar's position was the residential street, which is a 2-lane street, that's too big.
Correct.
Now, that was also, in my opinion, a unique situation because he had 2-sided streets, and the signs, as somebody that builds buildings, I would never do something that wasn't the same sizes equally because it just scrolls everything out of Skiwampus.
Yeah.
The feng shui gets off center.
Bad. I'm not a feng shui guy. So Shelley might know more about feng shui than me. I personally, I don't have a problem with our sign ordinance. I think it's fair. I think we have a limited amount of places that it's even going to come into play, and we're getting closer to having even fewer.
Yeah.
And if you widen Pioneer Parkway, that's going to change what signage can be anywhere on that road going either direction.
Yeah, I don't know that we're going to
No, but I'm just
widen
saying it's
Pioneer Parkway because we have some obstacles with a lava
Yeah.
ridge.
True that. But I'm just telling you that's our challenge.
Mhm.
Is how many more are we really going to have? Or are we just
Yeah.
Probably
One of-
maybe 10.
at the most that I can think of?
Because
On
you're
the
gonna have them
on the
rest-
side streets.
Because
Well, going
everything
down
else. is-
Pioneer
So
everything
going
else
down
is historic.
Pioneer, I don't think it's an issue.
Where does the historical
then,
designation?
probably Red
You
Mountain.
know,
It's,
where it
Turning
turns
on-
over here on this end of Santa Clara Drive? It's past the Jacob Hamlin home. It's past the fort.
Yeah, it goes over to like where the flags are.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna have anything there that's not the smaller sign because it's the
Historical district.
historical district.
Right.
Um,
yeah, the other side of that is, I mean, I think that the gas sign for Harmon's was, although it sort of is removed from the residential, but now we're getting more residential on the other side too. That sort of set the precedence. So after I saw that, I didn't have any, I thought, well, what can we do? You know, look at that. That's huge. And we've allowed that. And so I don't know how we can complain too much about the other ones along the line.
I don't know. I mean, y'all know I had the conversation with Buck and he agreed to dim it at 9 o'clock, or turn it off on Rachel, actually turn it off on Rachel when he closes his store.
Yeah, and he agreed to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't think, so thank you for your work on bringing that out. Maybe when we have a full quorum here, we can
I believe the other two did have a different opinion. I
talk
think
about
James
it.
had a different opinion and I think Mark had a different opinion that he thought they needed to be small.
Yeah.
Well, I could be wrong, but I think I'd like to hear because I don't want to,
Well, I know there was a little bit of discussion with me and Bob about the reader board. I think that's left up to the planning commission. We could probably go to the city and spell that out, what a reader board is, some requirements on that, other than unless you guys want to look at every reader board that comes through.
That's a reader board right there. I read it. It says 325 and 331.
there's any board that can be changed digitally or manually is a reader board.
Yeah.
So I just think you're muddying the water even further.
Okay. Well, our ordinance is silent on it. It doesn't really talk about
Well, this body
animated
here,
boards.
tonight, do we have any instructions for Corey? Do we want him to do anything here with this? I don't think it would be a bad idea to maybe get a straw poll from the guys that aren't here and see how they feel. I remember I was one that was vocal about feeling like that sign on Rachel was a little big, but I acquiesced just because of that sign and because it met our ordinance. And I thought, well, what can we do? So I guess the question is, if it means that much to us, then do we redo the ordinance? That's the question.
I mean, realistically, one of my thoughts that comes to mind is maybe we should take the historical district sign ordinance and just make that throughout the city, and it takes the ambiguity out of the whole thing. And it makes it a little smaller, which I think everybody that has that opinion, they need to be smaller, feels like, but.
I was wondering that sort of, I was thinking that same thing, maybe not for the whole city, because I think that,
No, residential site.
yeah,
sorry.
residential, yeah.
Resident-
yeah, I
I
was
should have been
thinking that.
clearer there.
I was thinking that would be an option, but some of the ones that he showed were a little bigger than 48 and they were well done and fit
Well, that
well.
Arby's sign,
Yeah.
I drive by it every day, multiple times.
You said that's 64?
64 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never think it's that big.
Yeah, I think that's what Bob is leaning toward when he wrote this report, is saying those are good signs, good size for monument signs, but obviously that's you guys' call.
Okay. Well, I don't think we have any desire, any motivation to take this any further today.
Okay.
But it may come back up.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Would we have the option to designate? I mean, I've never looked at how roads are designated, commercial road or residential road or 2-lane or 4-lane.
Collector, arterial.
Right,
all
so
those.
could we spell it out and make Because I didn't disagree with your position that the sign on Rachel was too big, because it is a residential view, but nobody's gonna see it. The only people who are gonna see it are the Shaws on the one corner. But maybe we look at that and say, okay, on a residential 2-lane street, it has to be the same as the historic district.
Well, and by definition, we're not gonna have any signs on a residential street unless it's in the mixed use.
Only in the mixed use that I
Yeah.
can think of.
Because, I mean, this is an extension of a residential street, but we're in a commercial area.
Mhm.
So
But it's historic, it's designated historical.
down here, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're not gonna see it that much. What do you think, Dustin?
That is my good words right there. Don't fix what ain't broke. We just had some disagreement in what could and couldn't be, because you know, I think you've heard us say that residential on one side, commercial on the other. It'll be interesting to see when those signs go up. They're gonna start building them tomorrow, or the next week rather, something like that.
Yeah,
And they're ready, they're talking.
Oh, yeah.
They're talking about being open by August 15th.
That's right. I walked through there today and the floor's all done. And the inside's ready for stock and shelves.
Challenge right now is whether or not gonna get shelving.
Yeah.
is that the,
Their original order, they told them January 2022.
that's the
You don't even want to
Latest
know what's going
corona.
on in my world right now.
COVID-19. And all right. Next item on the agenda, let's move on, is the minutes from hang on, I'm not at the date. That date is
The actual meeting that this discussion came from.
May 13th of 2021. Is that our last meeting? We didn't have one in June. So I'm open for a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting of 5/13/2021 as stated.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Mark, second by Ryan. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. It's unanimous. Okay,
So thank you all. I don't know whether our new city planner will be hired. I might.
this might be your swan song.
You're interviewing
one.
though right now, aren't you?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So if he accepts, you'll see somebody new in August.
Well, thank you, Corey. You've been very diligent.
Cover.
Appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.